And welcome everyone to the 12:30 p.m. session by Shauna Evans from TempWorks Software, Positioning for Recovery, Client Relationship Management during COVID-19. And welcome, Shauna.
Hi, thank you so much, Laura. I really appreciate that. So hello, everyone. Today, we are going to talk about how to build up and nurture relationships with your clients during the pandemic. That's a topic I don't think any of us were prepared to talk about 6 months ago, but here we are. But according to data shared by ASA in March, there is evidence showing that in recessions, client satisfaction actually goes up. And this is usually because businesses increase their focus on building client loyalty so that they do not lose clients. I would wager to bet that many of us are always concerned about maintaining good client relationships, but nonetheless, COVID-19 does present a unique circumstance and opportunity to build an even stronger foundation of trust and confidence in our clients. So before we get started, I would just like to introduce myself. I'm Shauna Evans, and I really appreciate just the opportunity to be with everybody here today and talk to you about one of my passions and strengths, managing client relationships. A little bit about me, I started with Aerotech in a recruiting capacity primarily. I did a little bit of sales as well. That is one of my weaknesses. I discovered a technique to cold calling where you call someone, profusely apologize, and then hang up on yourself. So that is why I am not doing a series on winning new business, but on maintaining client relationships, because that's the piece that I'm good at. So I do have a deep background of working with both applicants and clients in the staffing industry. So post-staffing, I hopped into TempWorks. If you're not familiar with TempWorks, we provide staffing software solutions to temporary staffing agencies of all sizes across the nation. So our offerings range from a mobile ATS and a CRM to recruiting and onboarding tools, back office tools like payroll processing and funding, as well as apps for client and employee engagement and time and attendance. I've been with TempWorks for over 7 years now in a variety of different roles and advanced through the company in training and project management, implementation roles, and now client management. So as the director of account management, I truly believe in the importance of building strong client partnerships and supporting clients' evolving needs and challenges, especially during these crazy, unprecedented times that we find ourselves in today. So for today's agenda, here's what we're going to be covering. And the areas include communication strategies, identifying a new client experience journey in our changed world, developing a client experience playbook so you can position for recovery, evaluating and aligning your service offerings, enhancing business operations, and other easy ideas that you can quickly implement. So first one we're going to talk about today is communication. A key tool at your disposal is proper communication. The way that we communicate has quickly changed, and adapting to that new norm that's going to be separating the field of competition. I know that we're all being inundated with communications about COVID-19. Every restaurant that I've given my email to for a free appetizer, every yoga studio I've ever attended, right? We're getting those email updates on, but it's still extremely important to share with your clients any changes your business is making that's directly related to COVID-19, and that will have an impact on them. So first, the frequency is so critical. You should be communicating regularly with your clients, at the very least, anytime a serious change takes place. I know being on the software side of the staffing industry, all of our clients rely on us for accurate reporting. And with PPP and the CARES Act came out, I mean, how many reports do you all need that you didn't need 2 months ago? So being able to provide those frequent updates for new reports that we're releasing, when they're going to be available, how to utilize them, that we've noticed has been super critical and does require frequent communication that our clients are needing and asking for. These communications should also be transparent and honest. Do not sugarcoat anything. Sugarcoating can lead to overpromising, and not sugarcoating actually goes a long way in building trust in your clients. Any messages you send out should also be clear and short. You don't want to be bogging down communications with overwrought and confusing language. Be concise. Not only will this make your message easier to understand, but it also increases the chances of your clients reading it with focus and intent rather than skimming an overlong email and missing critical information. Lastly, you should be accessible to your clients, right? Include a call to action and contact information on any messaging you send out. Make sure that in addition to that, you do have the personnel available to answer those phone calls, respond to emails, and even chats if you have that technology. If you have not already, your company should agree and set a response time that your staff should uphold. For myself and members of my team, we hold ourselves accountable to the 1-24 rule. 1 hour for a response time and 24 hours for either a resolution or a serious concrete update. What I love about that is the time frame is short, it's clearly defined, and we can communicate that often with our team and our key stakeholders, that 1-24 rule. And then as you said, communicate and uphold your client response expectations, that's where you're really going to see that you build that loyalty and trust. So clients, either way, are going to remember their experience working with you, good or bad. So if they're frustrated in reaching out, they're going to remember that. But also, if you quickly respond to their needs, they remember that as well. Moving on. While communication is obviously key to navigating our current economic landscape and letting our clients know about business changes being driven by COVID-19, there are also tools that I think we can all leverage to better understand all of these new needs and new challenges that our clients are experiencing. And these tools can help you modify your existing client experience journey to support those types of challenges. So a couple of things. We have first the voice of the client survey. The way that you do business is going to change, right? And it's important to understand that the client experience is what that's going to look like in this changed world. We already know that businesses that are still operating have a lot of employees that are working remotely. Is this going to be a new norm? What other areas can you identify that will help you serve your clients better? So that's where that voice of the client survey comes in. By conducting that, you can understand their current experience with you better and how that can be changed for the positive moving forward. So a voice of the client, aka VOC, that's what I'll be referring to it now, is a survey that captures your client's feedback about their current needs, challenges, and expectations. So by conducting a VOC, you will be able to identify areas for improvement and understand how your client experience model needs to change. For example, according to a survey conducted by PwC, speed, convenience, helpful employees, and friendly service matter the most to over 70% of consumers. So those may still ring true in our current state, but we're not going to know that unless we survey our clients to understand their top needs. So why is it so important? This is where we get into kind of stat number 2 here. Businesses that place the client experience as a priority during recessions will have the upper hand moving into recovery from COVID-19. So this is noted by eConsultancy. Companies that prioritize and effectively manage the client experience journey were 3 times more likely than their peers to have significantly exceeded their top business goals in 2019. So this type of survey, it really has become a key business strategy to expand and grow businesses over the past decade. You know, understanding the improvements your business needs to provide for a better client experience in this changed world, that's your first step. And it's a really crucial one. But it's much like when I get started crocheting a new scarf or a new art project or something. There's all of that initial excitement, all of that data gathering and understanding. That helps drive that first step. However, much like many of my half-completed art projects, it's really easy to stop at that beginning and lose momentum with the project. So make sure you're not falling into that trap. You know, you don't want to be one of those that does not actually analyze the data, implement changes, and communicate it. So next, we are going to discuss how to execute the second phase of this type of exercise. So this is where we develop a client experience playbook. So we are going to be turning that VOC into action. VOC's survey questions typically remain consistent so that you can compare response data across your client base. But one thing to consider in staffing is that if you have multiple staffing verticals, you probably, right, you're going to want to ensure that the VOC questions align appropriately for each audience. Skilled trades vertical versus maybe an IT, you're probably going to want to shift those questions. All VOCs conducted, regardless, though, are going to require active listening, analyzing, interpreting, and they need to be formed into actionable ROI for your company. So while creating and conducting a VOC are vital during a downturn, it's even more important to turn the feedback into client experience improvements. And a big part of any client experience journey is the desire to be heard. Clients want their voices, they want to voice their needs, challenges, and wins. But the client experience speaks for itself if the feedback continuously falls on deaf ears and isn't implemented or realized in some fashion. So acting on that feedback you receive from the VOC is essential to continue to build upon your clients' trust and loyalty. You also want to make sure you're communicating this strategy to all employees with your playbook, right? After the VOC has been executed and once you've compiled your data and you've analyzed it to create these actionable improvements to your client experience journey, you need to ensure that everybody on your team is driving from the same vision. That's where we insert a client experience playbook. So playbook will outline what a client most values in this new normal that we are in, this new era, and what the driving trends will be for them moving into recovery of COVID-19. By defining and providing examples of how the client experience journey should look moving forward, your employees can ensure that they are consistently implementing the vision and tactics that your company has decided on. Then we get into our third point here: communicate to your clients the feedback you heard and the changes you implemented. So to close the loop, you need to, and honestly, you want to, you get to communicate the client experience changes with your clients. As a Minnesotan, it's really hard to be proud of stuff. Very passive people, very hard to be boastful and brag. But this is one of those times where you really want to communicate those changes. You want to acknowledge the feedback you received from them and show that you listened and you acted on what was shared. You know, by outlining what you've learned, detailing the improvements and changes you make to support them, and communicating frequently about these items, you will directly increase the trust and loyalty you have with each client, which, I mean, going into COVID-19 recovery, that will position you for success. After you've completed your VOC, once you've gathered and analyzed the data, you've implemented and communicated changes about the client experience journey, this is when you can then address additional low-hanging fruit that can be quickly implemented. One of those areas is evaluating your service offerings. Okay, let's talk about evaluating and aligning your service offerings. So, I think it's safe to say we are all being affected by this pandemic, and most, including your clients, are confronting serious challenges to just maintaining their business operations. One of the ways you can help your clients is by offering them temporary alternative service options. I'm not suggesting that we just go and give free handouts to everybody, but temporary alternative service options, it's a great thing to explore. And to establish what your options might be, ask yourself, what do your clients need to get by during this time? For example, many of your clients are likely looking for more remote options. Easier ways to clock in and clock out safely at a work site. Minimizing germ spread, keeping people healthy, keeping them feeling safe, that's critical. So how can you help them? Do you have the tools that can support them? One of the big things that's been huge for us is our employee engagement app that allows for mobile and on-site time clock with facial recognition and geofencing capabilities so that people can remotely and without actually touching anybody's physical time clock punch into something. We've seen that's been one of the things that has really increased in demand, are tools like that. Paperless onboarding. Any of our clients that previously were not taking advantage of those remote tools where people can complete their new hire paperwork remotely and online, of course, guess what? That demand incredibly increases. So another example might be supporting your clients' need to make announcements, send messages to employees about worksite changes. Mass texting has been huge. That used to be a really great bonus. Let's be able to text out job opportunities, or maybe implement weather closures to our staff. But that changes so quickly with situations like this. So having those tools, making sure that you can communicate any PPE requirements, pushing out those messages quickly, that's huge. Not only does that put you in a trusting position with your staff, but also it makes you a really great trusted resource for your clients. So that's one thing, is thinking about the tools that you have. And then also, what are your business's advantages? So what services can your business adjust to support your clients during this difficult time? Right? By identifying your business advantages and adjusting them to align to your clients' needs, you're demonstrating that you understand their challenges. For example, like I mentioned, at TempWorks, we support staffing clients of all industries and sizes all over the US. Well, guess what? Some of our clients that specialize in event staffing, talk about a really hard hit for that to take. That was one of the first industries to really kind of just shut down. And large event staffing, sports games, concerts, I think it'll be a while before we're really seeing that at full capacity again. So one of the things that we decided to do was offer temporary free payroll processing and funding for a few of our clients. So we're being able to help with those licensing costs and those fees that they were otherwise absorbing. So the aim is to help sectors of the staffing industry that have been hit especially hard by COVID-19. So figuring out what are those specialized services to your clients and how it can positively affect your client loyalty, that's a big thing to consider. Next, let's talk about how we can enhance our business operations. All right, so Addressing your business's limitations. Let's focus a bit on your own limitations, which they will inevitably influence your client loyalty. So if you are experiencing a slowdown in your business, now you have an opportunity to consider executing on issues you would otherwise have not had the time to tackle in the past. Have there been any long-standing hiccups in the services you offer? Have you received any feedback or complaints about a particular issue? I can tell you, again, being on the software side, when I partner and work with our clients, I see that there's a lot of processes that haven't been defined, and I know there are areas of our software that could be optimized, but staffing is so fast-paced, and it's hard to really define all of those processes perfectly. So now is the time to discuss these as a business and brainstorm how you can make improvements and act on them. So that will ensure your services are better than ever once the pandemic eases, and your clients are going to appreciate the time you spent fixing those issues. You can also reevaluate your business operations. In addition to addressing any business limitations, it will also be good to look at your overall business operations. Has your what have you done to adapt? What modifications to the pandemic were made, and how do those affect the way that you work? Evaluate your operations to identify what changes are going to be here to stay and what action you might need to take and go back and reorganize. The industry is expected to make some changes permanently at the very least, and some of these are going to be in place for several months to come if they're not permanent. Making those necessary and helpful changes to your operations, communicating with the clients about those are going to show your clients that you have a plan and you can tackle any future challenges that are resulting from COVID-19. You are the ones that are going to be reliable, and that will make clients more likely to stick with you. So now I just want to take a moment to review some easy items to implement that you can take with you today to round out your client relationship management plan. Okay, so a couple of things you can do right away. You can create a task force, and that's specifically for managing your client communication. We have discussed how important communication is during this time. Hopefully you're not sick of hearing me say that, but a task force will ensure your communications don't lag behind. A task force will also let you give clients the individualized attention they need, and then any requests or questions clients have, those can be concentrated in one place. The task force can also organize all incoming communications, which will let you see if there are trends and similar issues that everyone is facing. You can also provide helpful resources and content to your clients. This could be relevant statistics, articles, anything that pertains to your clients and their response to the crisis, or that will help them through their new normal. There are a few options for how you could distribute these materials. At TempWorks, we developed a page on our website dedicated specifically to our response to the pandemic. It includes articles and videos from a lot of us in the leadership team, as well as some of the companies that we partner with. And we found it to be a really great way to consolidate that information that's useful to our client base. Another great tool is obviously social media channels to distribute content. One thing that has not decreased is the use of social media during this time. That's increased exponentially since the pandemic began, so that can be a really great option. And then finally, utilizing your website. When people visit your website, their first questions are going to be, how is this agency affected by the pandemic? How are they managing this? You don't necessarily need to have an entire page dedicated to COVID-19, but having something on your website is a good idea. Okay, so finally, let's get to that quick review of those action items here. So 1, establish a communication process and task force. If you have not done this already, figure out what it's going to be, right? There is going to be some lasting changes. And who is going to be the ideal person to run point on those communications and responses? Are you going to send an email for every change you make as a business? Are you going to develop space on your website? What are you going to do if there's future setbacks? Do you have a formalized process in place? typically when you're in the middle of a problem, if you haven't thought about how you're going to solve it, it leads to scrambling and figuring things out as you go. The more you plan, the better place you'll be for resolving. 2, you want to definitely conduct that voice of the client survey. Ask your clients, how are they doing? What are their challenges? What do they need? What predictions do they have about the future of your company or their company and operations? Listen to that feedback as actively as you can, analyze the data, and make sure that in addition to that, you are putting a plan in place, making those changes. That will have a cascading effect that does lead to that additional loyalty. You're going to want to evaluate and align your service offerings. What advantages does your company have right now? What tools do you have that you can offer? How can you support your clients' needs? And then enhance your business offerings. Some of us are less busy with COVID-19, and that can be a time to address those business limitations, those back burner items that you just have not had the time to previously tackle. And that's going to put you in a good position for any new challenges that might come your way. So I guess in summary, now is a great time for us to focus on the things we have spent less energy on before. So by implementing some of these key strategies, I am confident that you will all build on your clients' loyalty and help them navigate through this pandemic into recovery. So that's what I got. Any questions, feel free to send them my way.
There's a question for you, Shauna.
Oh, yay.
What if your client doesn't have staffing needs right now because they're on a hiring freeze? How can you still add value, and what reasons can you have for reaching out to them so you can stay on top of mind?
Sure. So that's a really great question. It does definitely depend on the client and the relationship that I think you've already formed. One of the conversations that I've been able to have, and I think that you'll all be able to have as well, as you don't just have one client, are what are the areas that are really picking up, right? So for some of our clients that were in the event staffing, it's really hard. It's such a niche market, and what can they do to change? But there are so many interesting articles out there, or clients that I've spoken with that are finding booms or new jobs. So what other positions, what other markets can they penetrate right now? So being a consultative resource then. I've found and shared some really interesting articles with some of my clients that are sort of facing the same position, that talk about how there are all of these new booming markets. I mean, you have people that are checking temperatures. I'm sure, yeah, I've seen articles about companies that were distilling alcohol, making hand sanitizer, fabric companies that are booming and creating masks. So I think even sharing that from a consultative standpoint shows that you're thinking about them and taking them into consideration.
Great, thank you. There is actually another question in the queue.
Okay.
What types of content are clients most interested in right now?
For sure, what I can say from our end, the biggest thing we've seen an impact in, of course, this is from the staffing side and the support side, is the PPE, right? These COVID loans, the COVID relief, people are really looking for ways that they can track that. So that's been a huge talking point for us, and making those new reporting capabilities available, which is interesting to kind of do in real time on the fly. You know, every release that we're doing, we're adding reports into the system because it's been such a big talking point. And then from our client side, a lot of it is figuring out just safe workplaces. So that's again why things like clocking in remotely, not touching things, limiting contact, that's been a huge talking point as well. Being able to prove safe procedures as a staffing company, that you have contactless tools available that make you a better option. You're not having these applicants come into your office. You're able to keep them healthy and safe and remote. Those are two for sure huge things.
Thank you. And there is one last question. So many interviews and meetings right now are virtual. How can you differentiate when you can't meet in person?
Oh, that's another really good question. I will tell you what I've been doing, which is picking up the phone a lot more. It's weird because I used to travel a lot to our clients and working with them, which I loved doing, and it's hard not to be able to do that. But having less of that face-to-face has led me to a lot more phone communications. So that's interview follow-up with people, and honestly, just checking in for no reason at all. I made a lot of phone calls yesterday with really nothing to talk to clients about other than just to make sure that they were doing okay. I think applicants really appreciate that as well, especially any of your go-to favorites or people that look like they could be in a really good position. Checking in for the sake of checking in is something that I think all of us need right now. And I have found that the clients have really appreciated that. It's led to some really nice organic conversations, and there's no motive behind it. Everybody needs to be checked in with right now. So it actually makes for a really easy conversation and a super simple way to build trust and a nice relationship. You're not selling them anything.
Perfect. Well, this brings us to the end of our session already. Shauna, thank you so much for your time and for presenting that great topic. And I invite everyone to tune back in at 1:30 for Selling in a Recession, and that's presented by Automated Business Designs. Thank you again, Shauna.
Thank you all so much.